Hello and welcome to the KIM-1 Resurrection Series Part 8. In this episode we'll be looking at the Phase 2 clock and remounting the keyboard. Well, at the end of the last episode we could see there was some life, and well, I've had a little poke around and I found some interesting things going on. You may notice I've disconnected the logic analyzer. If we turn it on now, what's showing, press the reset button, and we get a display. At the moment it's flicking around, but sometimes it's stable. And if I press up here, there we go, I'll crash it. Reset, that's better. Right, I get very similar numbers. I often get that number. If I press the store key, we get that, whatever that means. Yeah, that's the next one. We often get that number as well. I'm just poking around on the board. I've tried flexing the board around and it doesn't seem to make a massive amount of difference, though I can crash it quite easily if I touch certain parts of the board. There we go, I flexed it then, but I had my hand on the back of the board up here where the oscillator and that is. Reset again. Yeah, I'm just touching my fingers on the back of the circuit where the oscillator is, so that might be crashing the oscillator. Try and flex it without pressing that bit of the board. No, I can do quite a bit of flexing. I was wondering whether we had a broken track first of all. I'm not so sure now. What I will do is start running my fingers down other pins. Oh, we've gone a bit jumpy there. Let's reset again to stabilise it. Oh, it's gone off. Oh, we're all over the place. I wonder if we're getting a charge on something. Touch the processor pins. Nope. If I let go, more stable. Oh. Oh, these pins over here is the ROM chip. They're going to all the data and address lines. Oh, it goes wrong there. What about this side? So if we're getting a charge, was there a loose connection? I just can't tell. It's very erratic in what it's doing. Oh, peculiar. I mean, when it's lit up, it must be running, otherwise the lights will go out, because it has to keep scanning around to update the display. I press the store button, oh, started going, press the store, and it always goes to one character, but none of the other buttons will do anything. Reset, and the others... Nope, just crashed. I wasn't touching anything there apart from keyboard. Goes by itself if I just leave it. I press reset, just leave it. And it fails again. Wondering whether I should go around and redo a whole bunch of solder joints. I didn't really want to touch anything. I just wanted to keep it as original as possible. I did measure the supply and the reset signals because I was pressing the reset button, and if I was slow off the reset it worked better, but the reset signal and the supply is lovely and smooth. When it loops round, when it does actually crash and all the lights go out, I managed to catch some of that on the oscilloscope, and I've been looking at the software as it's running, and it's in random places when it goes, but you can see the noise on the supply that varies depending on what the processor's doing, and there was the same pattern in the noise on the supply as there was in what commands were being executed. I don't think it's the supply causing the issue. It's off your bench power supply anyhow. It's more of a case of certain instructions take more juice than others. And the processor must be running or there'll be no display. I wonder if the buses just need tying down or something. They're floating around and you're getting weird signals. That's the point. I don't recall there being any clamping on the buses. I think these resistors here are to do with these transistors. I'm not sure what these ones are for. I'll have a closer look at that and we'll come back to that. Here we have the poster of what's the circuit diagram of the KIM-1. And up here we got the 6502 with some logic around it. Some other bits of logic, that's a decoder for the K circuits, K1, etc. Then we've got the one of the riot chips. It's the one that's we think is fouled, with some circuitry there to do the keyboard, etc. And there's a second one, and here's all the memory, and expansion connector, another expansion connector, and the keyboard and display. Now everything that's on the circuit board appears to be here, and there doesn't seem to be any tie-down resistors or tie-up resistors on any of the buses. That's leaving them open to leakage. So what I'm going to do, just an experiment, I'm going to tie all the data bus and the address bus lines down to 0 volts via resistors and see what happens. Okay, if we now plug this back in, try it out, see what difference it's made. That's not a hard hat I'm wearing, they're magnifying glasses, but I can't see what I'm doing. I'll turn the light out so we can see the display a bit better, and let's see what goes on. It looks very much the same as before. Touching things. Oh, no, still failing. It doesn't appear to have made any difference whatsoever. Come up near the top there, there we go again. Right up near the oscillator. Well, there seems to be some sort of loose connection. I'm going to have to start soldering. I looked a bit closely at some of these joints here, and some of these have been resoldered before. So this is the 6502 right chip, and then that's the one I've replaced. So I think I'll solder all these pins around here. They just poking around and wiggling things, and I can't get anything consistent. Tying the buses down didn't do anything. There were 10k resistors. I'm going to have to start resoldering over them. And after looking at the circuit for the display, there's definitely some segments missing out of... Ooh, that one I think it is. Yeah, there's definitely a segment missing out of that one. And I think this one here as well. I'm going to have to go over them. And these solder joints up here are just absolutely terrible. That's the ribbon cable off the keyboard. Maybe I should mount the keyboard back on here now, as I was intending to do. It would eliminate those joints at any rate. So let's start by removing the ribbon cable from the KIM board itself. Ended up just cutting the cable. It was just too awkward. And the solder came out quite easy, and the heat got through to the other side, so pulling the wires out was okay. But there was a fair bit of damage to the pads already from whoever had soldered this in before. They obviously hadn't been shown how to solder properly, and the joints were just really big and blobby. They cleaned out quite well. I gave that a scrub with some alcohol, and they decided to do the actual keyboard end. Now again, it's cleared the bits out of the way. I need to cut all the cable ties off and cut the wire off. This was a bit more difficult. The bits of wire kept getting stuck in the holes, and the The easiest way I found was just to try and pinch it with the pliers and pull it out. I tried resoldering it, but it didn't help really. So just pull the bits of wire out one at a time, or sort of flick them out with the hot soldering iron. When we got there in the end, and there was no damage on this board. This was quite good nick. It was a bit crusty with old flux, but we cleaned all that off. Now, I had a few ideas about how to mount it. In the end, I just got one of these edge connectors you normally put on a board, so you can put like jumpers on it, etc. And I had to mount it in upside down because I had to solder to both sides of the board because the through hole copper had all disappeared, so I was going to have to solder on the top and the bottom. So I put it through just a short way, enough to solder the bottom, and when it comes to doing the top, that was a bit trickier. I couldn't get the iron under there, so I get to my other soldering iron's got a smaller bit on it, and I was able to get underneath the edge. Took quite a bit of inspection, but it got there in the end. So while I had the keyboard off, I thought, good idea to take it apart and have a look inside. Make sure that's all nice and clean. Nice bright light on my head set there so I can see what I was doing. And whiz all those screws out and then take it apart very carefully. Just wondering if there was any sort of spring loading in there at all, but it all came apart quite well. I lift it off, and it was just a copper-clad board. All looked in very good condition. And then there was a couple of sheets of plastic here with, well, it's the, what do you call it? It's sort of a membrane, isn't it? And just checking it out closely. There's a switch in the top left-hand corner there for the single step in. And take that off and have a look underneath. And there's a small amount of dirt, but nothing you'd really notice, so I just gave that a quick clean over a bit of isopropyl alcohol and then popped it all back together. Now there we had where the screw had come out, some of the little plastic insert, because there's like self-tapper screws, some of the plastic had come out and got caught. I gave the copper a bit of a clean, but when we screwed it back together, there was 2 screws missing, and I was a bit puzzled. We put all these screws in. Lightning fast screwdriver. And when it comes to the ends, the top 2 screws are missing. Well, 2 of the middle screws shouldn't have been there. And when you look on the back of the board, there is actually holes in the board where the screws should be. So I'm glad I recorded it, because I could see where the screws was meant to go, because I'd forgotten. Pushing it down onto the header, the upside down header, and checking it all in nice and neat. There we go, you can see where the holes are now for the screws at the back. That's all well and good. I just needed soldering in at the top. I'll be good to go. Be very careful not to melt any of the 7-segment displays with the edge of the soldering iron. I have got a habit of dabbing soldering irons onto things. So we just soldered the top one to start with, then the bottom one, and then we'll work my way up. I did manage to lob one of them across. There we go, just had to suck the soldering off and go again. It all went in nicely, and the board sits nice and strong and sits down firmly. And we cleaned all that gunky stuff off that was there before. I forgot to clean it off the top because the bottom was so clean. But it's come out lovely. There we go. Now if we just wire this all back up, we'll see if it works. Plug the RAM board back in. Careful not to catch those pins that are a bit weak. They're not very good connectors. I think I have to get different ones next time. And I flipped the baseboard over just to make sure there was nothing on there causing any sort of conduction. This like phase 2 clock issue. And plug it in the bench power supply. And give it some electricity. See if it works. Well, got some lights. Reset keeps going back to the same place, which is good news, and it displays there, which means the processor is running. I'll turn the lights off, you can see it a bit better. And you can see the dead segments on the display. The first one on the left has got the bottom segment missing. And I think the third one across has got 2 missing as well. Now I've resoldered every joint on the back. It's made no difference. Something to do with this phase 2 clock. If I put the meter leads on the phase 2, on the CPU that is, I mean the scope is showing it running, but we get a little flash. If I take the probe off, it runs. Well, sort of runs. It's updating the display, so it must be running. Oh, well on there. Reset it again. What is going on with this? Something to do with the phase 2 clock. I've actually soldered the supply on because I thought it might have been something to do with a loose connection there, because it sort of jitters. It's something to do with the phase 2 clock. I wonder if the actual CPU has got an issue. I mean, it's the signal's there. I'll measure it. Reset. We've got something going. As soon as I touch the phase 2, that's the phase 2, it trips. And I can't start it. And that's the jitter on the phase 2 as well. Every time I press the reset button, it jumps a bit, but it won't run. It's a 1 meg lead. I wonder if I should go to 10 meg. Right, 10 meg, I'm going to have to... there we go, it's on 10 meg. It looks smaller, but it almost goes. Phase 2 coming out of the CPU is very weak. It hasn't got any drive current to it. Turn that off. It goes. Oh, what's going? There we go. If I measure it, phase 2 on the circuit board, oh, that's on the PIO. Well, stay on. PIO. We run there, but you notice it's been squared off, so that's after the IC that squares off the phase 2. Still crashing. Signal from the phase 2 is a lot stronger there, and it doesn't seem to fall over when that goes. Gone over everything. Well, obviously not everything, because something's not working. I managed to snap the there's a Zener diode there, 5.2 protection diode. I have to get a new one of them put on there. It was already damaged on the board anyhow. So this is the oscillator with the phase 2 on it. This R53 is 330k, and this capacitor here is 10 puff. So that is, I think, maybe an input to the CPU. This is the C6502 here. Maybe that is a very touchy signal. I mean, there's quite high resistance and low capacitance. So maybe my oscilloscope leads are too low and are affecting it. But when you measure it at this point here, it's nice and strong. But you're being driven. Oh, that's oh, come down a bit. I'm measuring that signal there, I believe. I think that's the one going out to the rest of the circuit board as well as the edge connector. So you get a nice strong signal there. Don't touch any of this up here. The oscillator's running at the right frequency, so the capacitor must be okay. I don't know what the diode does. Must be some sort of charge pump or something. I don't know. But if that's working okay, then that's not the problem. Unless, of course, it's the processor that's losing the phase 2 signal, and that's why it suddenly starts addressing FFFF. So that's what happens on the, if you look at the logic analyzer, it just suddenly starts putting FFF out on the address bus, which is just nonsense for it. That's where it goes loopy. Could it be that signal's not strong enough? The oscillator circuit's not working as well as I thought. It's all been resoldered, so I don't know what to do there. It must be just the placing of the oscilloscope lead onto the phase 2 signal, cause it to go out of oscillation. Okay. sort of running, not crapped out. Store does that, reset, starts again, and it's mostly stable. On now. Line lead onto phase 2. Reset. Almost works. Almost. Now connect phase 2 to the oscilloscope. Nothing at all. Just won't go. It's the phase 2 signal in yellow. Crash, 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 immediate. Disconnect the oscilloscope. Leave the fly lead there, so it's not connected to anything. And it tries. Disconnect it altogether. And it tries a bit better. Notice the number's changed. It just keeps changing the number for some reason. Don't understand that bit. Should be able to press A for address and then type an address in. DA for data. I assume store means store the data. Plus is for the next, and then put an address in and go there. Well, I've had a play around with the phase 2 on the board, and it seems a very weak signal coming out of 6502. I'll show you what I can do and get it to repeat. I'll turn it on. Let's reset. And we've got a fairly stable display over here, if you can see that. But if I touch anything to do with the phase 2 clock up here, lift it up. And I press on the back of the board where the clock is, fails, reset, comes back on, and the phase 2 pin is over this side. And, well, it did fail when I touched it before. If you put the oscilloscope on it, it will fail. Let's do that now. I'll find where I've hidden the lead. And that's pin 2, or pin 39 I should say. There we go, it fails immediately. The clock is still actually going, phase 2 is running, it just won't run the processor. You see it falls over immediately, it crashes. I take it off, it stays running. There's something very touchy about the phase 2. I've ordered another 6502, although it would be a 6502A, couldn't get the original, just to eliminate it because I haven't actually got one. I've searched everywhere and I don't have one. So while I was waiting for that to turn up, I thought I'd carry on with some other bits, but we'd find out why all these other keys don't seem to do anything. So we've now got it semi-stable running. I think we'll leave that there, and we'll continue this in the next episode. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in part 9.